Hi everyone, my name is Pavia and I am an artist in Fruta, and I was the artist in residence at Mesa County Libraries last year. It was an awesome experience and I'm really excited to be back here to show you all some art that you can do at home. I also have a couple of benches in the Mesa County Libraries Discovery Garden on 6th and Chipeta, so you know, if you live around there and you're taking a little walk, maybe check them out. Yeah. So today we're going to be making a gratitude mandala. I know that these are really crazy and scary times, and you know, it's easy to get really stressed out and get really down about your life and about money, and you know, just get really scared about all the uncertainty that's going on right now. And so this is just a nice centering exercise that kind of helps you relax and think about all the good things in your life, and that it really could be a lot worse than it is. So yeah, we're going to do a little bit of art today. This is something you should be able to do with things you have in your house. All you're going to need is just a piece of paper. Regular printer paper is fine. If you want to use something fancier, you're welcome to. A ruler is helpful, not super necessary, but helpful for sure. A pair of scissors, pen, pencil, eraser, and if you want to add some color, which I always like to add a little bit of color, you can use really anything you have around your house to add some color to it. We're going to use some markers today. If you have some gel pens, that's great. Maybe one of those clicky pens with the 4 colors in it, you know, maybe some crayons, whatever you have to add color is great. Yeah, and even if you've never drawn before or anything like that, you know, this should be pretty easy. It's kind of inspired by the Zentangle method. It's not exactly the same as that method, but if you want to Google that, you know, to kind of find some more fun patterns and things like that and learn a little bit more about that, you can. This is kind of inspired by that method, but it's not exactly the same. All right. So you're going to start with your copy paper. That's probably going to be 8.5 by 11. Most of them are. And I usually like to start by just turning it into a square. So since it's already 8.5 on one side, I'm just going to take my ruler and measure 8.5 inches the other way. Got to get all my pens out of the way here. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just measure 8.5 inches. I like to mark that on both sides of the ruler so that I can make a nice straight line. It's always easier to make sure your line is straight if you make 2 marks than 1. But we don't need to be worried about getting it too perfect or anything. It's more about the experience and the process. So you got your 2 points, draw a line, and then if you have some scissors, you can just cut it. If you don't have scissors, you can just fold it, make a nice crease, and pinch it with your fingernails and bend it one way and the other, and then that should kind of make a nice perforation where you can tear it. But hopefully you all have some scissors at home. All right. Now we've got a nice square piece of paper. I can kind of see my marks that I made there, so I'm just going to flip it over to the clean side. And then I'm going to measure the center. So again, this paper is 8.5 by 8.5 now. If yours is a different size, then make sure you measure accordingly for your center point. Yeah, so our center point for an 8.5 by 8.5 would be at 4 1/4. So we're going to measure 4 1/4, 4 1/4, and then we're going to measure the other way, 4 1/4. And there it is right there. That's our center point. And then we can go ahead and just erase those other 2 little marks that we made here. And so measuring out your center point just kind of gives you a nice place to start with that. And from there, you can take your pen. If you have gel pens, that's a fun way to do it too, that you can just kind of draw and add color at the same time. But I'm going to start with a pen because I know everybody has one of those. And I'm just going to start with a little swirly in the middle. I'm going to start at that center point, and you can do something different if you want. You can put a heart or a square or anything if you want to get little more complicated, you could draw something, anything, just any kind of little design from that center point is kind of where you want to start. So I just got a little swirly there. And the goal with this is, as we draw, we want to think about things that we're grateful for in our life. So yeah, so I'm really grateful for it's springtime and it's beautiful outside. All the flowers are blooming, and that's one thing that I'm really grateful for. And it's also just a really good way to start your mandala, a flower shape. So now that I've done my little swirly in the center, I am going to draw some petals. And it's kind of easiest to draw in even numbers. So I'm going to just do 4 of them. And we're kind of trying to make them symmetrical, but they don't really have to be perfect. You know, we're just kind of making small lines each time. We're not making like a great big swooping line or anything like that. We're just drawing small little shapes. And so that kind of helps, you know, if you haven't really drawn before or anything like that, if you start at a center point and you kind of start small, then, you know, you end up with a pretty nice result, even if you haven't really done this before. So yeah, there's my little petals. I'm gonna add some more going this way. Our state flower is the columbine, the blue columbine, but columbines come in a lot of different colors. And so the columbines usually have these round petals. They have a mixture of the round petals and the pointy petals. So I'm gonna draw my petals here. If you want to, you can add some little lines. I'm just doing 1 in the center that's longer, and then 2 on either side that are a little bit shorter. So nothing too complicated. Just like that. Maybe you want to add some more little lines here. You don't have to. This is all about what you want to do and what you want to make it. There's no right way or wrong way. I'm just coloring in that little inside shape just to give it a little contrast. All right, so we've got a little flower. That's kind of a good little starting point there. And yeah, we just want to think about things that we're grateful for in our lives. So I'm keeping with the nature theme. I am really grateful for the mountains around here. We have beautiful mountains to look at, and that they kind of surround and protect our valley. And mountains, you know, they're a real organic shape. They're pretty irregular and kind of hard to draw in a realistic way, but we're just going to draw kind of a design, an abstract way of representing them. So we're just drawing some little triangles. I did a big triangle in the middle and we're just kind of following these petals. You know, the petals kind of point, you know, up, down, left, right, or north, south, east, west, however you want to think of that. And so that kind of gives us a good starting point for where we're going to put all the other elements. And you can just rotate your paper as you go along and draw some little mountains. We're lucky in America, and especially in the West, that, you know, even though we have to be isolated in our homes, we have the opportunity to walk around and enjoy nature. You know, I mean, there's people in New York and Tokyo and all over that, you know, live in these high-rise buildings, and they're pretty much just jammed in on top of each other. And, you know, most of us, at least here in the West, don't really have to live that way, and that's really a thing to be grateful for. All right, so we've got our little mountain shapes. I'm going to draw some snow on there. And I'm just making some zigzags. I'm not really making it any particular way or super symmetrical or anything. Just drawing some little zigzags. All right, got some snowy mountains in there. Now, if you're just working with a pen, you can kind of add a little contrast here by adding some lines like this. Or at this point, you know, it kind of depends on how you want to do it. If you want to draw the whole thing in pen and then add color after, you can do it that way, or you can kind of add color as you go along. So I might add a little bit of color as I go along, because I like to break it up a little bit, do some drawing and then do some coloring. But however you want to do that is up to you. All right, now we've got our snowy mountains, and I've just got some markers. They're just really basic Crayola markers. They're kind of a thin point, which is nice for this, but you can do it with the thicker ones too. It's just a little, you might have to be a little more careful with it. But I've got a purple one and a blue one, and what I'm doing is I'm doing my little baby mountains off to the side in purple, and then I'm gonna do my bigger ones with blue. All right, so that's just kind of a little demonstration on how you can add color, and we'll add some more here in a bit, but let's keep drawing. What else are we grateful for? I'm really grateful for the love of my family and my partner and all of those good things, and hopefully you have some people in your life who love you and who you love in return. So we're gonna draw some hearts, because we all know that hearts represent love. And I'm just going to fill them in right around these mountains here. And you can just kind of use each shape that you draw to feed into the next shape a little bit. So you can see I'm kind of drawing the heart a little bit bigger on the side with the big mountain and a little bit smaller on the side with the little mountain. I forgot to mention before we started, it's always nice to have a little something to sip on. I've got some coffee today. You should get some coffee or some tea, or maybe your favorite wine or something nice to sip on. Always relaxing. That's what this is all about, just relaxing and being grateful for the good things in life and not focusing on the bad. Just feeling nice and peaceful about things. All right, now that I've drawn my hearts, I've just got to color them. Just have to. So, I've got my pink marker. I'm gonna add a little shine to them. So basically I'm just coloring, I'm doing like an outline inside my outline with the marker. And then you can just kind of make like a smaller heart inside that, and then you have like a little shine to it. You don't have to make yours exactly like mine. Think about things that you're grateful for in your life, and think about if there's kind of a way to represent that in a very simple way with just a little simple design. You can get really creative with this stuff because your list of things might not be the same as my list, and that's okay. We'll go ahead and color our flower while we're at it. I'm gonna make it yellow in the middle because I just think that's a nice bright color and I like that. Let's see here. Put a little orange here. Maybe a little more pink. This flower is kind of based on the shape of a columbine, but we're getting into some different colors, so if you want to make it a little more traditional, you can make it a blue columbine or red or yellow, but I'm just kind of using colors that I like. A lot of this is just about what inspires you in the moment. You don't need to worry too much about how it's going to look or if it's symmetrical or any of those things. It's just about drawing and feeling the art. All right. Yeah. I think this picture needs a little bit of greening up. I'm gonna add some leaves. Kind of going back to springtime and all the beautiful new growth that's happening right now. And to do a leaf, it's pretty easy. You make like a curvy shape and then you want to kind of curve it back the other way, almost like a teardrop. Just curve it one way and then the other and just make a meet at a point. And you just draw a line right down the middle. You draw some diagonal lines to make your little leaf shapes here. All right, and that just kind of helps extend the design a little bit so that we have some room to do our next elements. So another thing that I'm really grateful for is my dogs. And you know, maybe you have some dogs or some cats at home, some pets that you love, and it's always nice to share your house with someone you love, whether it's people or pets or anything like that. So I'm going to draw some paws, and these are pretty easy to draw. What you want to do is draw kind of like a upside down heart shape, but more rounded. So instead of coming to a big point at the end, it's just going to be kind of rounded like that, upside down heart. And then you just draw the toes. They're kind of like a little egg shape or a little oval, you know. You could even draw circles, that'd be fine too. I'm just going to color that in solid black. There's one. right, now we have our paws to represent our wonderful pets that we're so grateful for. And I'm going to color these leaves in real quick because I did say it needed some greening up, but I haven't added the green yet, so gotta do that. And again, that's just my personal preference to kind of do the coloring as I go along. You could always wait until the end to do that if you'd rather do that. It's up to you. Another thing you can do this technique with is if you or your kids have some coloring books, instead of coloring it in with solid colors, you could fill it in with designs. And that's, again, if you want to Google that, you can get a lot of different ideas on fun designs that you can use to fill in your coloring books and give them a little bit more interest. Or you could do like this, and you could draw a picture and essentially make your own coloring sheet. You know, draw out the shapes that you want and then fill them in with your nice colorful markers or gel pens and do some designs in there. So I just took a little bit darker green to go over those black outlines, and then I've got a lighter green where I'm filling these leaves in. You'll want to be a little careful with your markers because depending on what kind of pen you use, the marker might make your pen smear. So you should be okay, but it's just something to kind of watch out for. All right, now it's looking nice and green there. All right. Another thing that I'm grateful for is that the sun is shining. It is, well, today is not as beautiful of a day, but we've had some beautiful days here recently. But on a cloudy day like this, it's a perfect time to do something like this, to really get into your art, stay inside and make something beautiful. And I always like the visual effect of adding something like this, adding the sun, you know. So basically I just drew like a semicircle shape over the rest of my design. And now I'm just drawing these little, I don't know if you want to call them teardrop shapes or leaf shapes, something like that. All right, now we've got our beautiful sunshine in there. And if you look, you can see I haven't done it super symmetrically. It's, you know, some of them are bigger than the other ones, and that's okay. Overall, the effect is still nice. I always like a radial composition. So radial is basically where everything comes out from the center. I think that always looks nice, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So yeah. Color that in a minute. Now, another thing that we can be grateful for is that we have water. Water is so important, especially out here in the desert. you know, life could always be so much worse. Hopefully we all have a nice home to live in, protect us from the weather and the elements. We have water, we have food to eat, we have people who love us, and life is good. All right. Now for these little water droplets, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the hearts. I'm going to follow that outline on the inside and then just kind of put a little shine to it, just like that. You can use your markers to kind of do a design within your design. Something like that maybe, or whatever you want. I really like warm colors personally. So I like what this yellow and orange is doing to the picture, coloring in my suns here. Warm colors make me feel happy. Another nice thing about a radial composition is that there is no up or down. You can just rotate it any which way you want, and when you're finished with it, you can hang it any which way. I kind of like the freedom of that. All right. Now, I'm really grateful for my house that, you know, I do have shelter, and, you know, we're all quarantined at home. You know, I can't even imagine what that must be like for somebody who's homeless. that makes me really sad to think about, you know, but it just makes me feel grateful that I have a house to live in, and hopefully you do too. So let's add some houses. So my ruler has a nice corner on it, so I'm gonna just use that to make the roof. If you just have like one of those regular skinny rulers and not one like this, then you can just use like the corner of a piece of paper, or maybe like a cereal box, or anything that has like a nice corner to it. And you can just, if you want to start with a pencil, you can, or if you just want to go for it with the pen, you can do that too. But I'm going to start with a pencil. I'm just going to kind of make my roof shape, and basically what I'm actually doing is I'm going to draw like a square in the background. Is kind of how that works. Gotta get all my pens out of the way again. All right, so now we have kind of a square in the background. Mine's a little shifted off of center, but that's okay. We're not gonna worry about that too much. That's what we're starting with. That's kind of an easy way to do it, but we're eventually gonna make it into little houses. So I'm just kind of echoing that square one more time on the inside to make the roof line. All right, and now that I've done that, we want to come in from our roof line a little bit and make the walls of our house. So above every little sun, I'm just kind of doing a nice straight line a little ways in. And you can see that's kind of starting to make a little house shape there. All right, so now that's done. We did that, well, I did that in pencil. If you are a real expert, maybe you went ahead and did it in pen the first time, but I did it in pencil to start with. So now I'm gonna go over it with my pen. And again, perfection is not the goal. The goal is just to think about all the things that you're grateful for in your life and just have a nice experience with art. So I'm just drawing a little window that maybe goes above a door or something like that. You know, maybe you want to make it a little more specific to your house. My house has a lot of like weird shapes in it, so I'm not really doing that as much. But if there's something that you really like about your house, maybe the color of the front door or some feature that you want to include, you could make it kind of specific to your house. Oh, forgot to add a window to this one. There we go. And we've got our little houses in there. I'm just going to color that roof in. All right. We can have some nice light coming out of our windows. There's another thing we can be grateful for is electricity and electric light and all of the wonderful technology that we have now. Back when the Spanish flu came and when the Black Plague came and all those things, we didn't have the internet where we could just, watch videos and keep in touch with people. Everybody was probably just totally isolated in their house and didn't really have anything to do, so we can definitely be grateful for that. I'm just adding a little trim to my window here. Maybe just a little outline of color here. All right, so now we have our houses. And another thing that we can be really grateful for is that we all have food to eat. They're still leaving the grocery stores open for us, and we can get our groceries delivered and we can have takeout and everything. We all have food to eat. So I'm gonna add some little plates here. Just another little semicircle like that. And then you can just add a second one kind of on the inside there. Like that. And maybe you have a favorite food that you like and you want to add it to your plate. I really like cheese. I like all kinds of food, but cheese is really good and it's easy to draw. So I'm going to draw a block of cheese here. Basically just like a triangle, but instead of flat at the end, you're going to make it round, kind of like a cone or whatever. And you just draw a straight line there. Of course, it's kind of halfway hidden behind the rest of our picture there, but that's okay. You can draw some holes maybe. Now that's starting to get a little confused with my dog paw here, so maybe I won't draw too many holes, but yeah. Add another little plate over here. right. Got some plates going on. I'm gonna color my cheese. And then I'm just gonna add a little my plates here, give them a little color. Maybe you have some nice plates at home and you want to color them the color of your plates at home. We do actually have some really nice plates that Tim Weddle made out in Palisade. I don't know if I have the right colors to do that, but they do have a little blue in them, and they're kind of orange. They're not really. They're a very nice, complex design, which I'm not replicating here, but I'm gonna at least use the right colors. They're a very nice, warm orange color, and as you can see, I do like orange and warm colors very much. So we're gonna make a nice warm plate, and they've got a little bit of blue in them too. They're very nice. And I'm certainly not doing them justice in this picture, but that's okay. Kind of starts to look like what you would see in a kaleidoscope after a while. All right, there's my plates with cheese representing the bounty of food that we enjoy here in America. Yes. And what else are we grateful for? I'm really grateful for music. Music always lifts my spirits and, you know, puts you in the right mood for doing art and doing things, and we have access to that just so easily. So, right above my little water droplets, I'm gonna draw some little music notes. There's different kind of music notes that you can draw, and if you're a more musical person than I am, then you probably know what all these little notes mean, and I definitely don't know what they mean, but I'm just gonna draw this one, whichever one that is. And I'm just kind of filling it in with some little swirly patterns here. It kind of represents the flow of the music. All right, there's that. Another thing we can be grateful for is peace. That, you know, there is war going on in the world, and we're definitely the perpetrators of some of that that's going on, but we don't have war right here in our backyard. It's not something that we have to see ourselves, except on the news, you know, and I think that's a huge thing to be grateful for. That's something that, you know, maybe our grandparents or even our parents, you know, couldn't couldn't say, you know. So I'm grateful for peace, and I'm going to draw a little peace sign at the end of each of these little roof points. And these are pretty easy. Of course, you just draw a circle, divide it in half, and then you draw these little diagonal lines going down from either side. All right. And I think just to green it up a little bit more, I'm going to add maybe some ivies. These are kind of fun things you can just add anywhere in the picture, really, but I'm going to just kind of connect these shapes up a little bit with some ivies. I'm just going to start by drawing kind of like a little S shape. Or I guess on this side that I'm doing, it would be like a backwards S shape, maybe more like a question mark or something like that. So you can start like that. Do some little leaves, just like a little teardrop shape. This is just kind of a fun way to round out your design. All right. Now we can green it up a little bit. And I've got a couple different colors of green, so I'm just going to kind of alternate, do a few of them with this lighter green, and then I'll do some of them with the darker green, just to give it a little variety. All right. And the last thing I'm going to add to my gratitude mandala are some little @ signs to represent the internet and all this wonderful connectivity that we enjoy, and that allows me to talk to you and you to all talk to each other and stay in touch with your family. I think that's a really great thing, especially right now. You know, a lot of people say, oh, technology is so bad because everybody just stares at their screen all the time and doesn't, you know, have any real human interaction. And I think that can definitely be true. But, you know, right now that's the only kind of human interaction we can have with anybody outside of our household. So I'm definitely grateful for that. So I'm just going to add a little @ sign on each little corner here. I'm using my blue marker because a lot of times our links kind of pop up in blue, and it's just another little representation of that. Yeah. So that's my gratitude mandala, my second one. And yeah, I would love to see yours. If you want to leave a picture of yours in the comments, that would be awesome. Yeah, thank you all so much for taking this artistic journey with me today. It's been great hanging out with you and doing some art. Have an awesome day.